Hello and welcome to this video. I have spoken so much about my record collection over the last few years here that you must be getting really bored of hearing my opinion about stuff. So I have decided that every musician that visits my studio, and many do, and you don't know about this, but many musicians will visit my studio for various reasons. And if they do now, we're going to sit down and we're going to talk records. So I'd like to introduce you to my friend Charlie.
Hello, Andy.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
So I've known Charlie for a very, very, very long time. We played together way back, was about 35 years ago.
Yeah, I was going to say late 80s, possibly.
Yeah, late
early
90s.
90s.
Yeah. So we were similar age, similar interest, and so. What we're going to do is like a little game, is that I'm going to pick for Charlie 5 vinyl albums out of that section there that I think that you would like, and you're going to go over to the CDs and pick out 5 where you're going to try and surprise me in what you like.
Get a bit left field, right?
Yeah, something that you do like. I would have thought you liked that, because I think that's what's interesting, and hopefully in doing this it'll bring out different aspects. We might even talk about some bands that we don't normally talk about, you know, once you find all my Boney M albums, you know.
Well, you know, people can be full of surprises. I mean, you know, as somebody who's, I suppose, predominantly been a rock bass player, I mean, you know, I have 2 parents who were classically trained singers and grew up listening to my mum singing jazz standards like Autumn Leaves and The Way You Were.
You see, I've known Charlie this. I never knew his parents had anything to do with music, let alone being. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So that's the sort of thing that's going to happen, you see. So anyway, we're going to go and choose the albums now. So you sit tight. We'll be back in a minute. So we have chosen. So I think I will start, and I know that he's going to like this first album because I can remember back in the day he used to mention this album quite a lot to me as being a favourite of yours. And I have it on vinyl.
Absolutely.
So this is Talking Heads, Remain in Light. There you go. So Talking Heads, one of my favourite bands of all time. I never mention them on the channel because they occupy a certain space in music where I don't know quite where to put them, really. So if I'm talking about funk or prog or even pop music or sort of virtuoso guitar playing, I would never think of them. But all of those are on this album, aren't they?
Covers it up. In some ways, I mean, the standout track for me, although it features the hit Once in a Lifetime, was The Great Curve, which is a track which is, it has incredible elements of funk and of, you know, sort of tribal rhythms, and a melody that moves around quite a significant amount, but also manages to do that over a single chord.
Yeah.
You know, that takes some doing to come up with that.
Do you think the reason why we both love this so much is because of being of a similar age? That Once in a Lifetime track, which is 79, 80, I think it was 1980. I can remember when that came out, I was 12. And I can't say I liked it, but it was really memorable. It was like
the video.
Yeah. So,
you know, the sort of
yeah, I thought, what the hell's this? You know, I don't know what to make of this.
Yeah, the somebody who was sort of like in the sort of preaching state of ecstasy, somebody who was about to start speaking in tongues. I mean, like, I'm sure there's something about speaking in tongues on one of their albums, actually. But I remember the video quite vividly as well.
Yeah, and I didn't like it at that time, but then as I got older and you start to explore certain musicians, and the guy that then brought me to this was Adrian Belew, who is like the guest guitarist on here.
All hail Adrian.
And I think he's going to feature like on virtually every album. I love Adrian Belew, and I know you love. What's it about Adrian Belew that we both? Why would we said you and me, that would be the thing between us. We're both basically rock players. We used to play together in basically a sort of almost like a hair metal band, wasn't it? He thought it was Nirvana, but it wasn't. It was closer to I don't know, Poison.
And I don't know. I mean, that there's a little bit of funkiness involved.
Yeah, a little bit of funk.
For me, with Bill, I can listen to quite a few guitar players, and I feel like I can get a measure on what they're playing. I mean, like, for example, you listen to someone like Steve Vai, and he does lean quite strongly into sort of like, Lydian mode style playing, that sort of augmented fourth thing. And I can hear that in his playing. Now, no way on earth my fingers will go that fast, but I can hear it and identify what's going on. Whereas I hear Bellew and it's like, well, what is he thinking?
What's going on? And I also think that he's such a strong singer and songwriter as well. That
he's a great singer. People forget about that.
Absolutely incredible singer. You know that, and I got this on a very good authority. I won't say what, but after he played in the band, David Byrne being a difficult man, because I think David Byrne's he's got autism in some sort of way, which I think is where the genius comes from. But I think he's quite difficult.
Yeah, you see him and it's like, oh yeah, spectrum.
Yeah, so there was a plan to sort of put Adrian Belew in as the lead singer of Talking Heads, which of course he wouldn't have done. You know.
I don't know. I think Talking Heads. I mean, like, David Byrne was.
I know. Yeah. I mean, I did hear that. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. I mean, I got told that.
That does not, in any way, shape, or form, take away from the fact that Bellew is a remarkable guitarist. Probably one of my favourite guitarists. If his sort of outputs, like in connection with sort of later incarnations of King Crimson, is anything to go by. A great songwriter and great singer.
Well, I knew you and me would centre around. I think if I was getting the King Crimson project together, I'd probably call you up because I know that you're into all that and I'm into that. So I said to myself, you cannot pick King Crimson. So I've picked all those musicians, so it might be a little bit more interesting there's
another thing with this album. I mean, one of my bass idols, and I mean, like, there are quite a few, is Tony Levin, but I also like a lot what Tina Weymouth does.
Yeah.
Simply, I mean, the bass line on Once in a Lifetime is 2 notes.
But it's the track as well, isn't it?
But
sing Once in a Lifetime. No one's going to go, and they go, but you go, doo. That's a tune, isn't it?
It's one of the. Well, you can't really call it a drone because it's 2 notes, but it just stays the same all the way through, but manages to work against everything else that's going around. And it's like, is Tina Weymouth a virtuoso bass player? I mean, like, I think the general consensus would be probably not, but is she a good bass player and does she choose things that are right? Absolutely.
Yeah, and for me, it's like when I play with a bass player, it's the groove that comes first above anything else. I can't play with her.
She's solid.
She's funky as well.
Oh yeah.
And those strange dance. The thing I love about Talking Heads is I love funk. Talking Heads, not straight away, but by the time we get to this album, have created their own brand of funk, and there's no other way. It's so funky, isn't it?
Genius of love. I mean, how funky is that? Damn.
Yeah, it's their own weird version of funk anyway. Yeah, so we both love this album. This is one of the greatest albums ever made. This is why it's great doing this, because I must have pulled it out once. In the whole 4 years or whatever I've been doing. So what you got?
One which I did used to have, and weirdly.
You've lost all your records, haven't you?
Yeah, I was in between dwellings. Some considerable period of time ago, left my sort of rather modest record collection with somebody else, and they moved house and left said record collection behind. Yeah. And it wasn't a big collection, but there were some interesting things which would, I don't know, I mean, if we're going to go down the prog route, which is quite prevalent on your channel, I know, Andy, I mean, like there was a few sort of quite credible items in my collection. You know, so
And a couple of Sky albums.
yeah. Well, I like their take on Toccata, but I mean
They're great, Sky.
Yeah.
I keep knocking them. I've started knocking Sky. I've moved away from
Flowers,
Camel.
I mean, like,
yeah.
monster bass player.
Yeah. So what's your? I can see it, and
Well,
it
was kind of inevitable. I mean, like,
it's an interesting choice.
weirdly not an album I have heard.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's like pick some that you will like, and, you know, I know that I like Crimson. I've not actually heard that, but...
So this one is for you to see, is Thra Attack by King Crimson. So when King Crimson came back in the 90s, they had like this sort of, it was almost like, a strange double drum band with two guitarists, and then Tony Levin playing bass and Chapman sticks, so you didn't know what the hell anyone was doing. The guitar synth thing had become a big thing, but these two drummers, Pat Mestellato and Bill Bruford, were it just rewriting the book of double drumming, right? Where we sat at the moment, of course, Pat Mestellato came down here a few weeks ago, and was when me and him did a double drum thing, and I tried to get it over to sound like Baboom, just so I could, you know, pretend I was in King Crimson playing with him. So, but anyway, when they went out on tour, they recorded a lot of those shows. Those live albums are great. This is an album of their free improvisations. It's one of the most heaviest things they've ever done, and it's magnificent. Thra Attack is like jazz fusion that's never been heard before. It's this like weird, free improvised, it's sort of industrial, noisy stuff, and you would love it. You know, a lot of soundscaping, a lot of ambient stuff, and I think from that period, I think it's my favourite album of that when they came back.
You know, an add-on to there, because a little confession of mine is, I mean, I never really sort of went to bundle on the first incarnation of King Crimson. You know, the sort of more proggy 21st century schizo.
Yeah, I'm not keen on it.
It was all right, but I mean, for my money, you know, the 80s incarnation, you know, like sort of disciplined B3 of a perfect pair was just like way more interesting and exciting.
I mean, obviously, I also like the John Wetton period with Bruford. You know, with those three albums there, they're amazing. But I think in terms of influence and importance, those three with the Bellew Levin Bruford band.
I mean, like they were incredibly influential to my playing, certainly. I mean, because I love some of the stuff that Tony Levin does. I managed to approximate the bass line for Elephant Talk on my 5-string, which took some doing.
Yeah, I remember we used to jam on that when the rest of the band weren't looking.
Yeah.
Me and Charlie were always more interested in the left field stuff, and when we were in the band together, I wrote this track in 15, 16, and they sort of, the rest of them went along with it, didn't they? Because, you know, they wanted to keep me happy, but you and me used to love doing it, and I used to remember we used to do it live, and then if we could get to the end of it, because it's so bloody hard to play, do you remember? I can't even remember how it went now. Can you?
I was playing it the other day as a warm-up.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Well, I mean, I gave up on the idea of trying to count it. It's just like sometimes you have to, you know, feel these things, but for one's, you know, sort of musical sort of muscle, so to speak, it was an incredible workout. It was kind of the equivalent of hearing sort of forces guys going on about, you know, like giving oneself a beasting, you know, and if I feel like giving myself a beasting physically, I go and have a run, and I go up Lincoln Hill in Ironbridge, and if I can get to the top of Lincoln Hill without throwing up, I think I've done well. And that was kind of the musical equivalent of that. Sometimes you have these things which can be madly complex, either sort of arrangement wise or rhythmically, and, you know, it's almost like you have to go and have a lie down in a quiet room either before or after.
I love stuff like that. I think there's people out there that want to make music that people like, and they want to get out and play, and the audience to go, oh my God, I love this, it's really catchy. I've never been that type of musician. I've always wanted to upset them, and I don't care how it is, but you could upset them by playing very fast or very complex stuff, but the best is playing something that's not in 4/4, because then they're halfway with you, the audience. They're like trying to tap. They go, what's going on here? What's going I just love it.
I mean, like, it fascinates me when I hear stuff like that, and you know, it's something sort of relatively mainstream, like Alice in Chains, you know, them bones. That's a great,
it's such a great song.
It's 7/8, 7/4. I mean, it's 7 something, right? You know, I'm a bit hazy on the. Well, I know the difference between a quaver and a crotchet, but I mean, how one arrives at something being in 7/4 or 7/8.
I'd say 7/8. That is.
Yeah. Some of those things are a mystery to me.
Yeah. Well, you choose. You have to choose, don't you?
Yeah.
So I am. It's my turn now, isn't it? So I'm trying to. We're stitching a theme here. So I have got an album which you may not know. It's this one. I talked about it on my ECM list. So ECM is that sort of jazz label, very sort of cold and beautifully recorded jazz. And they brought this album out by David Thorne, who's another guitarist that's in the Bellew, Robert Fripp world. But it's like an improvised electronica album. Mark Ice Sham on trumpet, but the rhythm section is Tony Levin and Bill Bruford, and I feel this is Tony Levin at one of his best moments, because he's got so much space to play, and it's not the norm.
What a rhythm section!
It's an incredible album.
You're off to a good start straight away there, and you know, I do like to hear a bit of brass and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because another thing which you may or may not know about me, I mean, like the first instrument I played was the trombone.
I didn't know that.
No, the first instrument was the piano, and then the trombone, and then I got into guitars and like rock music, and it was all downhill from there, really, I suppose.
So did you have like quite a schooled upbringing musically when you were little?
Well, not schooled, but I mean, like as both my parents were, sort of keen sort of singers and trained. The fact that I seemed to gravitate towards music was encouraged, but I mean, like I wasn't sort of schooled as such. It's like, expressed an interest in the piano, and it's like, well, Mum knew somebody from church who gave lessons. I mean, like I did that for a while. I mean, I think my interest in brass was sort of, I suppose I don't know how old was I, about 13 or 14, and I remember listening to Dexys Midnight Runners and just loving the brass arrangements, and from that, and then like some of the sort of.
That was the earlier incarnation of Dexys.
Before they went into their sort of fiddles and.
Yeah, so I didn't like that. Everyone loved it. I hate "Come On Eileen." I hate that tune. And last year I joined this covers band to make a bit of money, and they did "Come On Eileen," and I could not play it because it's the bit where it drops down, then speeds up. It goes, come on, come on, and it didn't matter what rate I started off at the speed up. I was never up at the right speed to then drop back into the track. It killed me. So not only did I hate it, I couldn't bloody play it either. But this doesn't sound like Dexys.
But I do like brass. In lots of ways. I mean, I like to hear like brass sections on soul records. But I mean, at the same time, I also like it. I don't know. For example, I mean, like Wagner, Lohengrin. I mean, like there's some wonderful brass on that, and like a strong sort of melody that sort of is signature there as well. So that would, not having heard it, this has quite a lot to recommend it. I mean,
I think you'd like this. And Bill Bruford, if you look, he's playing Simmons drums. That's all he has. There's no acoustic kit, and you think, oh my God, that's going to be bad. But actually, a lot of the pads he's using have got chords. And so the improvisations are based upon the harmonic foundation that he's supplying from the drums, which actually he's got bass lines coming in. And so it frees all the other musicians up. And if you don't know David Thorne, he really is something else on guitar. Really would be up your street.
Something which I shall absolutely have to have a listen to.
Yeah, go and check out some David Thorne. So what have you got next?
Kate Bush. the kick inside.
So is this one you have to hold it? What you see? Hold it like there. You see, like that, because then I don't have to do any graphics and put the picture in there.
That makes life easier.
Yeah, it makes it easier. So, what's it about that album?
Well, Kate Bush, who is a remarkable artist, I think. I mean, yeah, there's a couple of sort of well-known tracks on this. I mean, you know, Wuthering Heights, which would have been well-known to anybody around in the sort of mid-late 70s, and, you know, it's a nod to sort of the Brontes or whoever. And also The Man with the Child in His Eyes, which this may be an apocryphal tale, I don't know, but I mean, a tune that she did at the age of 14 or 15.
That's true.
And,
I've checked it out. It is a true fact, yeah, that she wrote that at 14 years old.
And Them Heavy People, great track, you know. I mean, like, there are not many tracks where you hear somebody referring to Gurdjieff either.
Yes.
It's like, damn, yeah, did not see that one coming.
No. I love Kate Bush, right? And each album's got its own thing going on. And I think this one, it's almost like, my favourite album would be probably The Dreaming, because it's the most way out one. For the general public, it's probably Hounds of Love. People love that album, especially after the big resurgence. But
on The Dreaming, she was 22 or 23.
yeah, it's ridiculous, yeah.
I mean, like, I'm pretty sure that this track is from The Dreaming. Sat in Your Lap.
Yeah, Sat in Your Lap,
I mean, like,
yeah.
that was kind of like a fever dream video. I remember seeing it on
And that was a single.
Yeah.
That was a single, and it was just so all over the place. Odd times, things just weird, you know, mainly percussion, sort of barking vocals. My daughter said this about Kate Bush. She goes, Kate Bush is the only singer that she can think of that if she's singing a song like Army People, she will then sing it in an Irish accent because that's what the character would have.
Yeah.
Nobody else would do this, you know. And she does impersonations. She like creates vocal effects. She'll question and answer herself. You know, 1 minute she's a poltergeist in the house, next minute she's a donkey.
Switching registers.
Yeah.
You know, like she'll have a jump of sort of 2 octaves, you know. Babushka, babushka, you know.
Yeah, and I think it's unfair that she's got this label as singing in this high squeaky voice because, of course, that's Wuthering Heights, and she's emulating a ghost. She's emulating, you know. The thing with Kate is it's interesting for me.
That otherworldliness.
Yeah. Because when you listen to The Man with the Child, that's not high, and that's
kind of the middle of the register, really.
Yeah, really. Yeah. So I feel that she is perhaps. She's in the top 3 greatest British songwriters of all time.
I mean, you know,
I rate her very highly.
Remarkable singer, remarkable songwriter. And
a great producer and studio experimenter.
A great dancer.
Great dancer, yeah. And she looks nice.
Yeah, and let's not forget, I mean, like a beautiful woman. I mean, what is not to like?
I'm thinking, what don't I like about Kate Bush? What I don't like about Kate Bush is the fact that she's sat in a big house and doesn't do enough records. Although I've got to say, more recently she's come back. I never thought she'd come back at all. I thought there was a certain point where we'd never see her again, but she has come back and
vanished off the radar entirely.
And she did have Rolf Harris on one of the albums, but I think she's taken him off because she was mates with Rolf Harris. There you go. That's a bad thing about her. Mates with old Rolf. I hate Rolf Harris because they keep saying that I look like Rolf Harris.
Well, I mean, like...
Do you think I look like Rolf Harris?
It's sort of like saying anybody who's sort of like middle-aged and has a beard looks like Rolf Harris. I mean, like, if I grew mine out, could you level that same criticism at me? I don't know.
No, you got those... I don't know. The thing is, you look different in the camera to what you look like in real life. That's the thing. You've got a bit of a...
I don't know whether that's a good or a bad thing.
You've got on the camera, you've got more of a Sigmund Freud thing going on than in real life.
I can't.
I've got more of a Rolf Harris. You've got more Sigmund. I mean, we could have done that video instead, where you just start to analyse me as Rolf Harris. I could be in hell.
Can you tell what it is?
Who'd have thought Kate would have enlisted such silliness?
I mean, like, I can't comment on what I look like on camera because at the moment I have my reading glasses on. One of the great joys of age is I can no longer read anything.
So I pulled this one out next for you.
Twang Barking.
Yeah.
Another.
Do you know that album?
I used to have it.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant, isn't it? There's two. Well, I've got two Adrian Bellew albums. I've got Lone Rhino, which is good. But I preferred Twang Barking because the difference between this and, say, King Crimson and Talking Heads is this is really funny, isn't it, this album? It's got such a sense of humour on it. I better show it them so they know what we're talking about. So there's the front there. He's a Twang Barking.
And there is some...
There it is on the back if I opened it up.
Epic guitar abuse going on.
Oh, yes. It's a funny album. It's a funny album. Oh, it's just one of those, isn't it? I love this album.
I think a lot of Bellew stuff is sort of imbued with humour, though. I mean, like, you know, for example, I mean, like Lone Rhino. I mean, like the actual title track. I mean, like, and I don't know why I remember this, but I mean, like a lyric from Lone Rhinoceros. You know, like, I know the zoos protect my species. They give me food, collect my feces. And who would have thought of rhyming species and feces?
I've got one of my favourite viewers, patrons, fans of the channel is a guy called Scott Bookman. And the other day, because it was my birthday, Adrian Bellew is on this site where you can get a birthday message of him. And God knows how much it cost, but he paid for it. And I didn't know what it was about, so I just opened this email and I thought, well, that's Adrian Bellew. Click and he goes, "Hi Andy, this is Adrian Bellew." I thought, what the hell's going on, you know? So
that's a couple of steps up from Danny Sapko calling you a dipstick.
There's a track on this one called Sexy Rhino. And I'll read it out for you because it's only short. "You're a monster, baby. You're a super killer. I want to be with you." And it's spelled with. "I love you. You're beautiful. You're a super monster killer. Show me your rhino thang."
Sexy Rhino.
And this, you just would not get this.
Featuring, if I remember correctly, sort of like rhino deep breathing sounds created with the guitar.
Yeah, he's doing all that on here. Oh, it's a funny album, this.
So in addition to elephantosity, you've got sort of rhinoosity as well, haven't you?
I don't think this I've ever mentioned on the channel. And I love this album. I absolutely love this album. And I think if I had a choice between this to any of the sort of 3 early King Crimson albums, because I've heard them so much, I want to go and listen to this now.
Yeah.
I want to go and listen to this. I might play it on my radio show.
Brilliant.
So what have you got next? I'm sure I've only got one more to go. I'm sure I've jumped the boat.
Yeah, I've got this one and...
well, you do 2 in a row now because I've got one more
so,
to go. Yeah, he's
can I get it in? Oh, no, hang on. There we go. Ella Fitzgerald.
So I wouldn't expect you.
The collection.
I wouldn't have expected you being an Ella Fitzgerald fan.
Well, I do like to hear a good singer. I mean, you know,
she's good.
Yeah, well, you know, one of the best, and it's I don't know. How does one express this? In order to play music in any way, shape, or form, you have to have an affinity for and an interest in music. But I know, for example, myself as a bass player, I got into music. I presumably had some affinity for music, but my ability as a bass player is as a result of doing it a lot of times. Admittedly, I had sort of like something approaching a 10-year hiatus, sort of like until fairly recently, and had to do a bit of getting back into it. But it's an element of it is kind of a physical discipline. It's like, you know, if you're a runner or you're doing martial arts or a sport of some description, anything, there is that physical element as you've got to sort of work at it and sort of put in the hours. And with singing, there are some people who are blessed with a natural voice. I mean, I remember my mum and dad talking about this. You know, there are some people who just like have a naturally great voice. I mean, I remember mum sort of listening to somebody and saying, well, you know, they're good, but I mean, like, that voice is entirely as a result of training. And it's like, you can train your voice to be better, but there are people, i.e., you know, like Ella Fitzgerald, and it's like, it's just like one of those sort of God-given things. And there are people who are like that, and
I mean, I really can't sing, and I would never wanted to sing when I was in bands. Can you do backing vocals? I don't think you understand. I ain't going to be able to hit any notes. I can't sing. And for all my interest in music, and I can play a lot of instruments, and I know all my stuff. I know my stuff, but I can't bloody sing. Now on this channel, I've utilised that for comedy purposes, and I sing a lot now. And in singing on the channel, I am now channeling the fact that I'm a bad singer. So now rock was what I wanted to hide. I am now displaying a lot on the channel, and I'm quite happily will pick up and, I mean, I did Dennis Waterman's, I Could Be So Good For You the other day, which I enjoyed very much. So it does, there is a thing, I think everyone's got a voice, but not everyone can sing like Ella Fitzgerald, can they? That's the thing.
Everybody has a voice, but not that many people necessarily have a voice that people want to hear.
Yeah. She's my favourite singer. Yeah. Ella Fitzgerald's my favourite singer. I was brought up on her as well, so I was listening to her from the age I was born. I can recognise her voice within about one syllable. It's like in my system, and I think Charlie's right in that she's got all this technique, and she can do all the jumping around, and she's got this incredible range which nobody notices because she's so relaxed when she sings high and low. But there's something about it which she owns it, because I don't think it's as though she doesn't know how good she is. A lot of singers, when they are good, you feel like, you're good, because that's why you're doing the whole.
You occasionally come across people like that. I mean, my folks, I mean, like they used to sort of like sing around the clubs in the sort of like the 50s, 60s, and one of their friends who was like an extremely good tenor. They'd have a score of some music, and Dad in particular would clock this because it's sort of like male registered, be like going, bloody hell, and this guy just never thought about it. It's just like, right, there's the note, sung them. Never gave it a thought. And it's like one of those people who is, a great singer and never really sort of gives it that much thought, or that top C. Well,
my daughters like it. Both my daughters can sing really well, but the one doesn't sing so much. But when she does sing, I can't tell the difference between her and my other daughter, who's a monster singer. And she, as soon as she opened her mouth at 4 years old, she just had this voice, and her pitch was all perfect. But then I was playing loads of Aretha Franklin, Ella Fitzgerald, and she loves all that Shaka Khan. And the fact that she loves it is that on the evening she goes into a bedroom and she'll sing for 3 hours straight. And she has got better for doing that, because then she's now worked out stuff. And when she's talking to me about singing now, I'm pretty sure she'll be a singing teacher, because she's worked out these strategies of how you sing certain songs, and it all makes sense when she says it. And I think that's the thing with singers. I think you're so close to your own voice. It's not like learning the instrument, like a guitar, that the process of learning it is learning, how do you sing that song? How do you sing the lyrics so it sounds like you mean it? Because it's not just about there's too many of these, all that Mariah Carey thing, which I love. I'm not knocking it. I love all that, but
it's the vocal equivalent to fret wank, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I haven't got a problem with it. It's just too much of anything, so you get fed up with it. And I think Ella, she could do all that, but it's so effortless that you feel that is just she owns it. The only way I can explain it is when she does it, she owns it, because there's no ego involved in it. I don't think she's up there doing it to show off. She's up there because she knows the audience love it, and it's what she loves to do.
Sometimes also being in the moment as well. Because like we've all been told to sort of be less notey on occasions, haven't we? I mean, that's sort of something that's been told to me on occasions. Like, can you just play a few less notes? And it's like, well, But other end of the spectrum, I mean, like, you've got somebody like Karen Carpenter, and there is very little embellishment there.
Yeah.
But
a beautiful voice.
God, yes, and incredibly accurate as well.
Yeah, I don't deal with singers enough on this channel. I need to talk about singers.
I do like singing. I mean, I am.
Can you sing then?
Well, I haven't really done a lot for a long time. I mean, like we did that brief foray where we started doing that police covers band, and I mean, like that was demanding, and sort of 20 something years after the fact, I can no longer hit those notes because I mean, I've not kept it up, and well, bloody Sting can't hit them either. So I mean,
Well, having said that, you know that there's a YouTuber called Wings of Pegasus.
Oh yeah,
you know him.
Yeah,
And he sits there with his nice haircut from around about 1982.
There's a sort of like a mid-80s sort of like rocker throwback.
Yeah, it's not even big. It's not even big. It's not even like hair metal hair. It's before then. It's like,
well, plus I mean, like Wings of Pegasus. Does that sound like a sort of mid-80s sort of like metal band?
I mean, I'm sure the reason why Joe Lynn Turner has gone bald is because Wings of Pegasus has got his wig, because that's what it looks. Anyway, that's by the by. There's a bit of humour in for the ear for you, but he does this thing now, and he's really way more successful than me because he gets his old, pitch correction auto-tune box out, and he goes through stuff and proves that they tune their vocals in. Well, the other day he got a live gig of Sting, and he analysed it. He comes on and he said, "This is incredible." He said, because he's so accurate pitch-wise, but this hasn't been pitched, and he showed that Sting.
I saw that episode.
Yeah, actually. Incredible stuff. Now, obviously, a few weeks ago, me being, the important YouTuber I am, Sting invited me to one of the gigs, and I went backstage and met Sting, and I stood there, watched him play the bass, command the audience, and sing. And the bloke is ridiculous.
Oh, I'm a big fan.
He is ridiculous, and he seemed to be singing pretty high to me. He was doing them.
I have no doubt, but I mean,
they've dropped the keys a bit.
Yeah, I was going to say. I mean, I think they might have dropped the keys a tone or two.
Yeah, they did. I mean,
bloody hell, fair play. I mean,
yeah, it was interesting because what I saw on that gig was an old school band. So this was a
3-piece, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a 3-piece. There was a massive audience, and they basically went out on stage and they played. And if they felt like going off on a tangent, they did. There's no backing tracks, there's no choreography, there was nothing. It was just a band on stage, and yet it was a huge gig. And so it was surprising because before they went on, Sting comes out and he gathers Dominic and the drummer comes in. They sit down and they go through the set list, and Sting's literally going, "Oh, shall we jam at the beginning of that before we come in? Yeah, okay, is that what you want to do? Yeah, just do something in A. And then just do that one a bit fat." And I thought, this is bonkers. This is the lost art of bands.
Yeah. And the joy of a power trio as well. I mean, like that. Essentially, I mean, like less musicians is, I suppose, less complexity. So, I mean, like if you want to sort of indulge your flights of fantasy, I mean, like there is, I don't know, less points of failure.
But the point is Sting, who's in his 70s now, mid-70s, is still doing those gigs, is still getting the audience in, and is still communicating that stuff to the audience. And they were loving it. And it's such a shame that this is slowly becoming a lost art. It was very impressive. I have to say, it was impressive. It's a shame. I mean, who's to say that there isn't some kids out there that go, should we just form a power trio and go out and play and jam and do all that stuff? But I don't know whether there's a structure there to reward it if that's the case.
Yeah, which is a shame because that is something which the ever encroaching creep of AI into everything. Could AI improvise?
No. It can never do any of that.
It's never got to hear something in order to do it.
It could emulate improvise. Everything it's doing is emulation. It isn't the thing.
No,
that's the whole point.
Like looking at examples of something and then sort of doing, I don't know, a pastiche of it, really. Isn't it?
If you said do something creative and innovative, it will go right. So who's creative and innovative? Or Velvet Underground, Miles Davis. It will go and find that, and then it will just emulate what it thinks they're doing. In other words, it will have to go and find something that. I tell you where I
an interesting mashup, wouldn't it? Velvet Underground.
Yeah, I think this is the problem with AI. I saw this guy, and he was on one of his AI sites. He said, have a look at this. He goes in and he says, play me some sort of jazz rock fusion funky with a sort of Afro-Caribbean African influence. Clicks it. This track comes out, sounds like Weather Report. Now, we all thought of Weather Report, and when you heard it, the sax sound sounded like Wayne Shorter, and the bass was fretless and sounded like Jacko, and I thought, well, he didn't say that. But what it's done is it's gone, right, so what's that weather report, copy weather report?
It's trolled through all the meta tags associated with it.
And what it hasn't done is it doesn't weigh the whole world and then come up with its own, mix of everying. It just goes to the opposite.
Things that are like the ones that are floating
at the top, and just go for that. So I don't think we need to worry about AI from a musical point of view, but we have to get it straight. We have to start valuing the stuff in music that AI can't do, and we're not at the moment. That's the point. So you do another one, and then we've got
musicians. Right.
I don't know what I'm going to say about this one, but I own it.
Yeah. Eric Sati, a compilation. Now, a minimalist composer. I mean, like a French guy, I believe. Beyond that, I can't really say a whole lot. Although I would imagine that people would recognise his sort of like
gymnopédie.
Yeah,
but there's loads of those, isn't there? There's the famous one. Here in the UK, when we were younger, there was an advert, and it had like an orchid, and then this big robot spray can came out and sprayed the orchid, and that was Eric Sati, wasn't it?
Plus, I worked it out on my bass for some reason.
It's 2 major seventh chords going back and forth, isn't it? I can hear it.
D major 7, G major 7. And but because it's minimal and doesn't have a lot of notes.
Now, my Achilles heel on this channel, you might have guessed it is classical music. I wish I had the knowledge of classical music I do about most other music, and I haven't got it. Eric Sati, I do have some vague facts in my head about him, and I want to say that he lived in a very minimal house, and I think he just had a table and a hammock or something, but I don't know. I think he was quite a strange guy, but I get him confused with Ravel.
Entirely consistent with the way some of his music sounds. Yeah. I mean, like, if you were to look him up on Wikipedia, it'd probably say something along the lines of, like, minimalist French composer.
Yeah, now, it's not minimalist like Philip Glass, though, is it? It's
well,
it's earlier than that in terms of the period. I would describe him as post-impressionist, but it's rooted in impressionism. So he's like a quirky Clair de Lune bloke. What's Debussy? And I love all this. You see, this is why I've got the album. I love it. I do like Eric Sati, but I wish I knew something about him.
Wasn't it Debussy who said, music is about the space between the notes? Pretty sure that was Debussy.
Well, I know with Debussy, I think in France at the end of the 19th century, they brought a gamelan in, and he went to hear this gamelan, and of course he was in the classical tradition, French classical tradition, and then when he heard the gamelan, which is almost like minimalism, isn't it? That gave him a different take on music. I think these people like Sati and Debussy, we don't see them like Schoenberg and Stravinsky because it's so pretty, but I do like pretty music, you see. So
music is meant to be appealing. I mean, like, we can, for sure we could sort of like go off on a sort of an intense flight of fancy and do something which is challenging to play and potentially an uncomfortable listen for other people. But I also like a nice tune, and I
don't know whether if the hardest thing ever would be someone said, Andy, can you write a pretty love song? I don't know whether I could do that. I could do horror soundtracks to the cows come home, but I think so can anybody else, can't they?
Yeah, I mean, it's easier to sort of like do things which are dark, isn't it?
It is, yes, it is, and it's something that I've never said. That's why these conversations are interesting. My last album is this one, Japan, one of my favourite albums. I brought it out because I wanted to talk about it. I don't know whether you would like this album.
I remember hearing Quiet Life, and I thought that was a good album. I'm less familiar with that.
This one's probably the most muso album they made. It's also got the biggest hit because it's got Ghosts on, but that sort of Steve Jansen, Mick Karn rhythm section for me occupies the same space as that Bruford Levin rhythm section. Mick Karn's bass playing is
Mick Karn is a great bass player, and you immediately know it's him.
Yeah.
So I mean, like very much a signature sound. and a great band. And I mean, like, I think perhaps sort of, this is just my impression. I mean, like, I'm not speaking, sort of in actual facts. This is just opinion and sort of anecdote. I mean, like, they didn't seem to sort of be as widely known as they deserved.
Yeah,
Possibly.
they have a slow climb as sort of almost been like, for me, they seem like,
it was almost punky. Sex.
It's and they seem like they're Roxy Music wannabes to start off with, and then they slowly move towards this area which has been hugely influential on prog. Nobody wants to say this. There's Japan are hugely influential on prog. Bands like Porcupine Tree, like Tim Bonus, who I work with, and these musicians have cropped up in those bands. So when I was working with Tim Bonus, he'd worked with Mick Karn quite a lot. Now, Mick Karn, of course, in 2011 died from a brain tumour, so he didn't last long. I think got into his early 50s. And when that happened, it's if he was around now, I wonder whether he would also be more known as one of the great bass players. But chatting to Tim, he sound like a real character, because I don't think he was schooled in any way, shape or form, didn't know the names of any notes, and didn't even tune his bass he would just tune it to a note. So even if he didn't know the notes, he wouldn't know where he was. He might not be. He would just tune it up, whatever. And that is how he played. And the other thing that Tim said about him, he was quite a funny, like, quirky, you'd think that Japan, they're all like in suits and beards, but actually he seems like he was a very fun guy. So let us say.
But great band, I think.
Yeah, this is one of my favourite albums. This is really one of my favourite albums, and it's got the same thing that Talking Heads has got. This is so funky. Art of Parties and Still Life in Mobile Homes. They were the two favourites of mine. Really, really funky. Ghosts. I think it's one of the greatest songs ever written. So that's that. And of course, if you look there, you got what's his name? Steve Johnson, David Sylvian. They're brothers. You see, I get them confused. And he pioneered the look of not only George Michael but Princess Di as well, which is
absolutely
not everyone can play.
Not a lot of people know that.
So what's your last one?
Final one. Holst, The Planets.
My favourite piece of classical music.
Yeah, great stuff. I mean,
and if you like trombones, I mean, it's trombone. Yeah. It's trombone central, isn't it?
Absolutely, brass central. Mars, the bringer of war. I mean, I remember, hearing this when I was quite young and just thinking, wow, it was just so intense.
It's my favourite classical. I mean, I don't want to be that much of a, musical ignoramus when it comes to classical music, because I feel like I used to say my favourite piece of music was Bartók's first violin concerto, which I do love. It's probably my second because it sounds more intellectual. But for some reason, if you say, my favourite piece of classical music is The Planets, it makes you, it's because, and the reason is because it's so bloody good. When I was teaching, these kids are coming, all these metalers are coming, and I go, when does heavy metal start? And they go, Black Sabbath. And I go, no, it doesn't. It starts with Gustav Holst. And you'd put on, Mars, and they would sit there going, what is this? It's ridiculous, because...
Well, I mean, like, you can imagine that sort of, the refrain from Mars in particular, I mean, being played with, sort of real heavy, down-tuned guitars as well, go full sort of like gentle sort of death metal and like tuned down to C sharp.
And also then in Jupiter, there's that bit, it goes, down, 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 and it speeds up. I love that.
Everybody knows elements of these without realising necessarily who it is. It's like, well, people know Mars, people know that sort of that refrain from Jupiter without necessarily knowing, that it's Gustav Holst.
And then is it the last piece, Neptune, where they've got the choir, and that's based upon this vocal refrain, which I think is in the melodic minor, but it's got this sort of augmented sound to it. It's maybe it's whole tone, with very strange harmonic sound. And I went to see it live, and apparently Holst specified that there's a choir in the room and then there's a choir outside in the corridor, and they open the doors and then they slowly transfer from the choir in the room to feel like you're going away. And you think, Gustav Holst, this is properly way out that's in the score.
Sound engineering.
Yeah,
incredible.
Incredible.
Existed to do so.
There is a dull moment on any of those tunes. You know, it's not just Mars Bringer. I absolutely love. I love it so much, and I love it because it's also very English as well. It's got a very English sound, and it also hasn't. It's got an otherworldly, almost like prog. It is prog, isn't it?
Well, I mean, I suppose if you think about it, a lot of prog players will have had some influence, I don't know about grounding, but some influence from the classical world. I mean, I like classical music. I don't know a whole lot about classical music.
I don't really.
I mean, I often have classic FM on in the car, actually. I mean, like I used to like a bit of Radio 4 and slowly went off them for for whatever reason. But, I'll hear pieces on classic FM.
Yeah.
And, for example, I mean, somebody like Liszt is actually quite sort of signature sound. It's like a piece. It sounds like Liszt, and then
I wouldn't know Liszt. I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know.
Actually.
Is it? I don't know. There's so many.
Well, apparently,
I don't know anything about it really.
Again, I mean, this is something that I've heard. Somewhere at some point, you get people. Again, it's a similar deal with, say, Mozart. I mean, like they would compose things which were of sufficient complexity that they couldn't just like hire somebody else to play it. It's like, well, if you want to hear some Mozart, I mean, like it's challenging music to play, so you're going to have to get Mozart to come in and play it. So it's like they wrote the tune and then got the gig for playing it.
Well, I do know that Gustav Holst was a trombone player. And so obviously he may have done this or he at least wrote stuff that he would wanted to play as a trombone player. Nice. And brass players, I've known a lot of brass players in my time. They're a separate breed. They are like the rock and roll end of the orchestra, aren't they?
If you think about it, I mean, speaking as somebody who sort of dabbled, albeit briefly, with brass, you don't know what note you're going to get until you actually blow. You can sort of control it to a certain point by sort of pressure on one's embouchure and like sort of valve or slide position, but you don't know what note you're going to get until you actually blow, right? Now, this is something I remember when I was having trombone lessons at age, I don't know, 13 or 14. It was a local fella who used to play in some of the orchestras and stuff like that, and I went round for my lesson and he got a piece, he got a score for something he was going to be playing, and there was numbers written over the ledger lines because he got a line which was sort of like extending well off the stave in both directions. And I was saying, well, what's with the numbers? And he's saying, well, it goes quite a long way off the staff, and it's like I've written a slide position and said, well, if I don't get the right note, at least I'll get a harmonic of it. And it's like.
Yeah, I've actually played in brass bands, championship level brass bands, and I was involved in one of those strange competitions. So for those of you who don't know, here in the United Kingdom, there was a very working class movement amongst certain sort of industry, like the coal industry, where they would have these brass bands, and I think there was a reason why it was brass and not violin. There was something why these brass bands were formed anyway. They then entered into this thing that was like a football league, and I think they still do this, and you have different divisions. At the top you have the championship section brass bands, and this one brass band, their drummer got ill, and they said, we need a percussionist to do this. Now, I'm not a brilliant reader, but I can read, and this was a 20-minute like modern classical piece for brass, so it killed me. And when you turn up on the day, you go into this room and they've got like a garden shed in the middle of the auditorium, and in there the judges have to go in the morning, and then they're locked in. They've got a bucket to do their business in. This is true. This is actually true. And they stay in there.
Sounds almost like Amazon, where one does one's business in a Tizer bucket.
And I could not believe that, because it had to be. It was so, the judges couldn't know who the bands were. So obviously, and I can remember I had 2 rehearsals, which was bonkers, because normally if you're in a band playing a 20-minute piece, which is all structured. You'd have to rehearse it, But I mean, it's supposed to be able to read it. So I got it down. I went to the rehearsal, went through it. The conductor said nothing, so I thought, I'm doing all right. I turn up on the morning of this competition. He calls a band rehearsal, so the whole brass band comes down in this room, and we all said, it says, right, so I want to do a run through just percussion. And I looked around, there was only me on percussion, and I had to sit there and play my part without any band to play to, so I had to properly read it. And I can remember it was something like 89 bars before I came in. So he's going, I'm going 10, and I was awful. I got to admit, I was awful, but I got through it. And then he did a run through, and that was it. And I thought, you did that on purpose. And that's one of the few times I've worked with a conductor, and I could see how it worked. I could see, like, let's see if that guy can sort of play. He was just checking I'd be all right, but he didn't want to upset me because they knew they needed someone. Once you're there in the morning, right, it was a really interesting thing. And I dropped some points for them because I was playing snare drum, but I also had to play this tambourine part. So I had to go, and then on the tambourine, it was like that, right? And so, because it was hard to do, I picked up the tambourine and I stuck it on the xylophone thing, and I played it on the xylophone. When we got the notes back, they dropped 2 points. They said the quality of the tambourine in bar 572 was restricted, perhaps because it was placed on. I went, why are these blokes in this shed? In the minute, he's in there doing a wee in a bucket, going, hang on. That tambourine don't sound right.
Damn.
I'm a rock musician. It's like, what the hell's going on?
Well, he's reading or sight reading is challenging.
Yeah, well, my sight reading's appalling, but I have found if I have to read, then once I am reading, I'm stuck to. I have to have the music there. I can't play it without the music. It's like really weird. I need it there to be able to play the part. So I can understand what it's like to be a classical musician and have that there. But sight reading, I'm going on my ears too much. My ears. Yeah, I can, because I can read music, drum music, but once we go into it, I find it really hard. I'll be looking at it, but my ears have gone, and I'm not reading it. I'm following it, but I'm just drumming along, and then suddenly you hit. Whoa, so.
Well, I could sight read when I was, like learning, say, piano or trombone. I mean, I could, okay, not to any significant degree. I mean, maybe sort of like grade 5, I could read something of that, sort of complexity or
that's pretty
complexity.
Complex.
But I mean, now, if somebody was to sort of put a piece of sheet music in front of me and want to sight read it, it had better be 3 blind mice, preferably in C.
Yeah, but
so I ain't got to.
I can't read pitch, obviously. I'm a drummer, but I can read okay, and I use it a lot. And I think the thing that really rammed it home for me was like 20 years of teaching drums and having to write out the patterns. But anyway, we're now at the end of the video. We've done nearly a bloody hour on this, right? Plus the stuff at the beginning. That's an hour-long video we've got here. Well, it gets more adverts in and it makes me more money, doesn't it?
I hope time goes as quickly for people who are watching.
No, well, no.
Time has fled by to me.
Anyway, big thanks to Charlie for coming in and giving us a different look. I think that worked quite well, actually. Yeah. I felt like I was talking about new things, which is very difficult with my channel at this stage. New things is hard to do. I end up talking about Genesis again. So. If you like this video, stick a like on it. If you want to see more stuff like this, then subscribe. I have got a Patreon for free members. You can go and join my Patreon. There's a whole ton of stuff there, including my radio shows. And this is a thing I really am enjoying at the moment. Imagine this, but it's a radio show and I can play the tracks and you can hear the music I'm actually talking about. That is what the Patreon's like. But you have to pay to get some of that. Although I do have, I think, 3 radio shows that are for free members, so you can go and check those out. You could also become a member here, get to see the videos early, and I have special members only videos as well. Or you could go over to my PayPal tip jar and just give me money for no reason whatsoever, just because you want to.
Just out of the goodness of their hearts.
Their hearts have got goodness in them.
I'm sure they've got good hearts.
They've got good hearts, my lot. I tell you this now. They have, yes, they have, without a doubt. I got the best audience out there. I'll tell you this now. So I've bored you up enough, haven't I? So, you know what you got to do. See you all. Bye-bye.